cuore col factotum della città è largo. La 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 la. Oh. Sound?
Gehan, that song.
Yes.
Wait, we did that. Was it
Last
year, just before this awful pandemic, right?
Yes.
January.
Yes.
And didn't you start the concert with that?
I did because, very few pianists can play such a challenging
Well,
piece.
good for you, but I remember being so nervous because it's not the best of pieces for a pianist to just go up there and start a concert with.
Yeah, but if anyone can do it, it's you because you're one of the most versatile
Thank
musicians.
You for that comment.
Yes.
Regardless, I was still very nervous. But good to see you.
Good to see you too. I mean, we kind of seem to be in sync even clothes-wise.
I just wanted some color.
So, yeah, because I think we always have such a good time when we get together.
Yeah,
and I felt like the clothes we wear today should...
vibe.
Exactly, yes.
Good seeing you. Yeah.
And looking forward to the chat. Yeah. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Gehan Cooray on yet another episode of Gehan Couray's Meeting of the Minds, here at our family hotel, Jetwing Colombo 7. My guest today really needs no introduction. She has been not only a collaborator, but also a personal friend of mine. I never imagined that we would become friends, ladies and gentlemen, because I was only a little lad when I first met her, and I was rather in awe of her at the time, back in 1996 actually, when Soundarie was the official pianist for a production of The Water Babies, the Charles Kingsley novel, which was dramatized and put on the boards at the Lionel Wynd Theatre by Samantha Tisoiza Abewira, who was my elocution teacher, and Soundarie was in her early 20s at the time, I think.
Probably.
And Soundarie, I was in awe of the way you played the piano at the time. And then in the year 2000, I think, when Indu Dharmasena directed a production of The Mikado at my school, St. Joseph's College, you were not only the pianist, you were also the music director,
yeah.
Right?
Correct.
And I remember you telling me, Gehan, I was 12 years old at the time, ladies and gentlemen, and I remember you said, Gehan, don't sing from your throat, sing from your chest. Actually, perhaps my first question would be, what constitutes a great collaboration between a pianist and a singer? Because as you all probably know, ladies and gentlemen, Soundarie and I have done many concerts together at the Lionel Wynd Theatre, Bishop's College Auditorium, all over the place, Golface, Independence Day 2016. We have become rather a duo in town. And what would you say makes for a great partnership like that?
Okay, firstly, after that very elaborate intro, it's always great chatting with you, Gehan. We've been friends. Yes, you said you got to know me when you were as young as 12, but I think ever since then, we've grown not just as musicians, but as friends also, where we get to respect each other and the art we obviously practice and follow. So great chatting with you. And with regard to what makes a great collaborator, is that what you said?
Yes.
So I think there are, first of all, a lot of good collaborators out there, companies who are doing a brilliant job, and I think our role as a collaborator is to support and help the person performing, be it a singer or an instrumentalist. But for me, and this is just my humble opinion, I think what makes it extra special is when you get to know the person. Like, for example, we've known each other for so many years. So I know Gehan Cooray as a friend and as the young singer he is, and the talented and the versatility that he brings out in his singing. So getting to know the person for me is important, because that kind of helps the chemistry between the collaborator and the singer.
Yes.
So you get to understand the subtleties, the nuances. I think as a performer, you know that sometimes, I think you tell me, Soundarie, I might do something different on stage today, or I'm not feeling too well today.
Yes.
So just watch out there. So
that one note or
the
something.
one note.
Yes.
So the more you get to know the artist, the better it is for a collaborator. But that being said, I know there are restrictions sometimes. I remember the days when I was at the Royal College of Music. Singers, I used to be the accompanist to the French song class. So I used to get music like Messiaen, Fauré, just like midday I would get the music and I'm supposed to play at 4 o'clock for the singer. So you don't really have time to get to know the music, neither do you have time to get
to know the singer.
Yes. So sometimes you're pushed into circumstances like that where you are forced to interpret the music, use the knowledge you have of the composer and follow the singer. And it works sometimes. But to make it extra special, I feel it's important for the collaborator and the singer or instrumentalist to know each other, take some time. Even at rehearsals, I mean, you and I have had great times at rehearsals. We would finish 2 songs and chat for what, 20 minutes?
Do we really want to disclose that to the audience?
So it's important.
Yes.
But of course, the end result is very important as well. So as long as you can bring out a good performance, that's all that matters.
Yes, because rehearsing with you never really feels like, oh, now we're practicing, you know. I'm so glad you mentioned how important it is to get to know the other person, Soundarie, because I think some people have a false sense of professionalism, if I may say so, because they think that one's professional life should be entirely divorced from one's personal life, which I get where they're coming from, but at the same time, I think to have an optimal professional collaboration, there has to be a personal connection also.
True,
right?
But like I mentioned, there are restrictions. I mean, sometimes you're hired to do a production and you just get to meet those singers only for 1 hour a week, then you don't have time then
to socialize. Yes.
So then you are just forced to work that way. But like you said, to me personally, it just makes a big difference if I know the person I'm working with. So I always take time to not just understand the music, but understand the person who is interpreting the music and from where he or she comes from. And also you learn a lot. Like for example, you would say, "Sounds, I'm interpreting this way," or what do you? And I also like the way you sometimes ask, "Sounds, what do you think of this? Do you think I should do it this way?" So there's a lot of mutual respect between the artist and the collaborator. So that is also very important, I feel.
But that's also a testament to your humility, Soundarie, the fact that you have literally zero ego, because you can always say, I'm Soundarie David with, you know, all these years of experience, and yet you treat every singer you work with so much respect, and you...
because I feel in their own right, they've achieved so much, they know so much more. Sometimes I would not know what they know, and I would always like to learn, and I think we, as human beings, we should always have an open mind. I think we all have our positives and negatives, and you just take the best from people and move on.
Yes, exactly. And that's so important, ladies and gentlemen, because it's silly to pretend that we don't have negatives along with our positive attributes, right? We're kidding ourselves. And I think people who focus on other people's negative attributes, I think I've said this on another show, they're essentially reluctant to take a good look at themselves. They find it easier to project all their negativity onto other people. So when you just take it for granted that we come with the good and the bad, and like you said, we just choose to focus on the good, it makes life much easier.
So true.
Yes. And you mentioned the word versatility. Thank you very much. Soundarie, you said that I'm a very versatile singer.
Yes, you are.
and you are one of the most versatile musicians in the world. I don't just say that to, you know...
I'm sure there are many versatile musicians out there.
And you are one of them, because you can literally play anything from classical music, you know, symphonic works, you know, as a member of the symphony orchestra, opera, you know, you've accompanied many operatic singers. You can also not just play, but you can really train people to sing everything from jazz and gospel all the way to pop and Broadway musical theater. So, you know, I mean, just listen to the scope of music that, you know, we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm primarily a classical baritone singer. I sing obviously the operatic repertoire, Broadway musical theatre. I think in many of my concerts with Soundarie, we have also done
ranging from classical, the operatic arias, to jazz, Broadway, gospel, and then of course you've also brought in our local music.
Yes, Sinhala songs.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not just tooting our own horns here, ladies and gentlemen.
So take you and me for example, we have a good classical grounding, right? I am a trained classical pianist, but I was always open to exploring other genres of music. So if someone said, oh, can you try a little bit of jazz? I know I'm not a jazz pianist, but I wouldn't mind trying it out. I wouldn't mind learning. I wouldn't mind knowing the difference of how to play jazz versus how to play classical. So it's again having that open mind. And I think in life I have been pushed into situations where I have had no choice but, say, to accompany a musical, like you said, when we were working with Indu.
Yes.
Right? Or Auntie Sammy.
Yeah.
So I could have easily said, no, I'm just a classically trained pianist, I'm not going to be playing this. But no, I enjoyed doing that.
Right.
So it's having that open mind to try out other genres of music. And it's not just a case of trying out, study a little bit on it. So that you cannot interpret jazz the same way you would interpret classical music.
Yes.
So just be open. So that's just my advice for anyone who wants to be versatile. Also, I know some musicians have this notion that if you play classical, you cannot play something else, or that it would affect your classical interpretation of music.
Right.
Because I remember a few years ago, I believe I was playing with the symphony orchestra, a soloist for a concert. I believe I was playing the Greek piano concerto.
Okay.
And about 3 weeks before that, I was doing a show with Shehara, she's one of my lead singers. And she was doing a lot of jazz, somewhat pop. And someone was like, Soundarie, don't you think you should stop doing these other things till the Greek is over?
Oh gosh.
And I was like, no, why should I? No, but it would affect your classical playing. I said, no, as long as I am able to switch off. Right. And say, okay, I'm done with this pop and jazz thing, now I need to interpret Greek the way it's supposed to be done. So you have to have a strong mindset to know, okay, this is over now. So even now we've done it within a concert, right?
Yes.
So you would start with the operatic arias, and last time, what did we end it with?
I Will Follow Him in New York, New York.
Yeah, exactly. So within 1.5 hours, we are trying different repertoire, different genres of music. So I think you just have to be open to trying out things, and that brings in your versatility.
Absolutely. And I think what she said is so true, ladies and gentlemen, that if you have a classical foundation as a musician or as a singer, that is, obviously the genesis of Western music. So you can build your, musical mansion, as it were, upon that classical foundation. I think perhaps in a way, Soundarie, would you agree that those who, shall we say, can only sing the more popular repertoire, the genres like pop or rock or whatever it is, that maybe because they don't have the classical foundation, they are unable to take on other genres of music?
For me, and I'm sure you would agree, that classical grounding is what set the stage for everything else.
Yes.
So I'm not saying, okay, there are people who say specialize in training pop and this thing, but there again, I feel if we knew the correct way of singing from our roots in classical training, that helps, because for pop you obviously need a more open sound.
Yes.
But if you know that with your diaphragm and chest voice you can add on so much power, that helps your pop singing as well.
Yes.
So it's a lot of thinking and analyzing also that goes in. And I think people think if it's musicians, they don't think, they just go sing out there. I mean, that's all wrong, I feel.
Absolutely.
So much of work going on in your brain trying to figure out how to interpret it just right.
Exactly, because I think, especially in Sri Lanka, unfortunately, some people are under the misapprehension that we are just having a good time on stage
Yeah.
without realizing, like you said, the hours of research we put into it as serious musicians,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly, and also to choose a repertoire.
The repertoire,
Yeah. Do you remember last time? I remember you having those little notebooks, and every time Gehan used to come, he's like, "Sounds, I think I would like this to come up there, or I'm taking bits off."
I mean, Soundarie is one of the most cerebral individuals that I know, and I like that because I tend to be very cerebral myself. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, Soundarie, as some of you probably know, is also a lawyer. She studied at UC Berkeley, which is the University of California, Berkeley, one of the most prestigious schools in the United States. Many people from all over the world dream of going there. Soundarie specializes in intellectual property, copyright law, and I would love to hear her thoughts on this because, you know, ladies and gentlemen, intellectual property and copyright is something that most Sri Lankans take for granted. They assume that if you're an actor or a singer, you know, you just wake up one day, you decide to sing somebody's song, you decide to do somebody's play, and boom, you just do it and have a grand old time, you know. But actually, Soundarie, who is both an artist and a lawyer, can tell you that that's not the case at all. When we're professional artists, we go about things professionally and properly. For example, when I was doing my feature film, The Billionaire, which I adapted from a George Bernard Shaw play called The Millionaires, I reached out to the Society of Authors in London. I told them that I was interested in producing an independent feature film adaptation of one of Shaw's plays. They looked up my credentials. They said, yes, we think it would be a good idea. They gave me the license to adapt it. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, now I own the
derivative rights, because
Yes.
you would have done an adaptation. So adaptation arrangements, all that comes under
derivative
yeah.
rights.
So, like Gehan just pointed out, I mean, there is a due process to be followed. I mean, if you just wanted to do it and not get anybody's permission, I mean, of course, they are in the States, they're very strict about
Yes.
these things. But here, just to go back to this one incident, so I was specializing in entertainment law, so we got to do 2 weeks at Universal Studio. So, you know, there, even if you are using a painting as your backdrop, you need to get permission.
To show it in the shot.
Yeah, to show
Yes.
it in the shot. So from the artist, you know, you need to pay, and of course they have their prop room where the clearance has been got. But if you're using even a building, I remember studying a case where they hadn't got permission. So, you know, that's how strict they are. But that being said, I do realize Sri Lanka, we are a developing country, we are a poor country, so we can't necessarily afford to pay big money on royalties. But the general public and artists, we need to respect each other. So for example, if you compose a song and I love the melody and I want my choir to perform it, say, I need to get permission. And our Intellectual Property Act, we do have one, and I think it covers a lot. It even has derivative rights, performers' rights, collective rights societies, management societies, but it's not monitored. You know, that's not implemented. But I think Sri Lanka is getting better, because I just heard of a friend of mine who's opening a publishing house looking into all this. So let's hope things will get better. But I think it's really important. While as artists, and I think being an artist, I realize the need to have our music out there, and to share it freely so that people appreciate it, and we can move people with our music. But at the same time, I don't want people to take artists for granted, because I mean, it's their hard work too. And when I say artist, it's not necessarily just a musician or a singer, but I'm talking about even the painters, artists, you know, sculptors. I saw so much of a beautiful sculpture at this hotel, right? But I'm sure, I mean, that was obviously purchased.
Right.
So that's fine. But if you are displaying it and then say somebody copies it, and you know, and there's so much of copying going on.
And it's unfair by the creator, right?
Exactly. Because there should be some incentive for the creator in addition to making the work popular, so that he is inspired, and also artists need the money as well. Right. So yeah, I really wish artists, I think there is also lack of awareness among the artistic community in this country.
Yes.
So maybe we need to work on making them more aware of what their rights actually are, especially when it comes to copyright. I mean, trademark and patent law, I think because it's more commercial. So there's a lot of, work there. But when it comes to copyright, we're still not very open to, and I think artists are also scared in their drive to become famous. They would rather just sign up a contract and say, okay, you make my song popular.
Right.
But they don't realize that in doing so, they are actually losing a lot of moral and economic rights. Economic rights, moral rights is always with them. Actually.
Right. What I would also like to talk about is, it's not only in Sri Lanka, even in the United States, ladies and gentlemen, famous singers like Judy Garland ended up broke, practically destitute, because all these other entities took advantage of them and they, weren't given their due. Because like you said, the artist's tendency, natural inclination, instinct is to get their work out there at any cost, right?
Exactly.
And these unscrupulous people prey upon such artists.
So true.
Yeah.
And I think now, especially given the pandemic, given the fact that social media is really out there, there is, everybody even putting out short videos using other people's music.
Yeah.
I think YouTube has this policy where they say you cannot monetize it if it's somebody else.
Somebody else's, yes.
But that's as far as they go. But
right.
The music is still being used.
And I think once you told me, as long as these people at least acknowledge.
Exactly.
Yes.
They really should acknowledge.
Yeah.
Even if it's an arrangement or even if it's So as per the law, if you use a substantial portion of a piece of music, for example, and that is easily identifiable to the original piece, then you're in violation of copyright.
I see. Right.
So I think least they can do is acknowledge.
Yes, absolutely.
Which sadly they don't.
Sadly they don't.
Yeah.
And on that note of, since I mentioned adaptations, just to go back to our original discussion about versatility and the many different genres that Soundarie has tackled, I remember how you adapted a song by Rodgers and Hammerstein, or rather you adapted the arrangement of one of the Rodgers and Hammerstein songs while you were doing The King and I with Auntie Samantha, the Yolande School of Speech and Drama. And I think
Indu also
played the role of the king. Yes. Now, I remember there was one character called Tuptim, the Burmese princess, and she had this song called My Lord and Master, which is written for a soprano.
Right.
I think the girl who played the role in that production was maybe an alto, so she didn't really have the range to hit the top notes. And Soundarie basically, tweaked the melody and tweaked the song to accommodate this girl's limited vocal range. So for example, at the very end of the song, the climactic high note as written is, He'll never know I love another man.
And
so what does Soundarie do?
The child could not hit the note.
Hit that note.
Yes.
And
so I think I just changed the melody. I'm not saying it's a good thing.
No, but
we had to adapt to the situation.
Adapt, but the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, she adapted it in a way that maintained the dramatic intensity of the piece. So what she did was something like, He'll never know I love another man. Still very wistful, still full of pathos, even though she wasn't hitting that top note.
So long ago again, I can't really remember the details.
But, that's a skill that not everyone has, because, most music directors would say, oh, you can't hit the note? Find someone else. But you
I
worked
don't know
with
whether
her.
I could have said that, could I?
I think you could have.
No. But, there are sometimes where you have to change around. But we have to be careful not to distort the melody too much.
Yes.
Because then again it would be a violation of copyright, and I think we as Sri Lankans don't know the intricacies of copyright law.
Right.
So I think that's important.
Or even the intricacies of music, even artists, because like you said, if you're changing something, it has to be in context, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
You can't just randomly pick a note. It has to go with the harmony of the rest of the score and things like that.
Exactly. All these details which some people may not be aware of, And I have to say, Soundarie, because I think most people in Sri Lanka know you as a choral director. Of course, you know your famous choir Soul Sounds. I think that's another remarkable skill, because you can work with dozens and dozens of people in a choir, and you can also work with individual artists like myself. You know, you can work with me on a solo concert, and you can also produce these, you know, concerts with choirs.
Okay.
How do you manage that? Because, you know, you're not exactly this lovey-dovey person, but still you have this outstanding ability to work with all these different people.
I mean, obviously with time it gets better, but when I was thrown into directing choirs, I think I was just come back from London after my music studies, and I think being exposed there again to proper classical training and working with people from all over the world who are musicians, and as you and I know, artists are not very easy people.
Yes.
I mean, we have our weirdness.
Yes.
But so I think that opened my mind to understand each individual is different. So in the choir, I mean, you know some of the girls
Yes.
in Soul Sound. So
I
you
mean,
know, most of them are actually very strong. I won't say opinionated is not the correct word, but they know what they want.
like Dinushka Jaivikrama, for example.
I mean, lovely voice. But, you know, each one's different.
Yes.
So it was learning to deal with the differences, and in a choir, as you know, it's blending of voices. There will be some who will be good solo singers, there will be some who will only be choral singers and sing that part and carry it out and be a leader within the part. So it was understanding those dynamics and knowing that you have to work within those dynamics. Of course, it needs so much patience.
Yes.
And because also the girls in my choir, at least, we don't do it full time. So it's adjusting to schedules, working around their schedules, working around my schedule. I mean, you and I didn't even get a chance to meet this
Yes,
time, right?
this is the first time we're meeting since I came down from Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen.
So imagine putting together a rehearsal schedule for 30 odd girls.
Yes,
So it has
and
been
coordinating.
Exactly. So it's different, but I think key in both working with a solo artist and working with the choir is, to me, like I said, I respect each one's way of working, but personally to me is getting to know the person and getting to know the dynamics. And then, I mean, I'm not saying I change all the time. I mean, if I don't agree with something, I do tell them. But otherwise, it's trying to understand and work together, because at the end of it, you know, whether it's a choir or whether it's a person like you, we are all in it for the love of music.
Right, right.
And that's what brings us together.
Right.
And I think that's how I've just, you know, battled on.
So, I think you would all agree with me, ladies and gentlemen, Soundarie has given you so many golden nuggets to digest when it comes to music, when it comes to law. You know, for example, even what she said earlier about, you know, how if, let's say, a classical singer like myself, if I were to sing something lighter, let's say a pop song, you know, I have to approach it as a pop song. I cannot impose my operatic interpretation upon
to just do a little bit, maybe
song.
do Fly Me to the Moon.
Okay, actually, okay.
In a very operatic
In a very operatic style.
And then show them how you would do it.
In a more pop style.
Jazzy, kind of laid back.
Perfect. Yeah. So the operatic version would be fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. And the more pop version would be fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Yeah. You know? And it's so easy once you know, have the... And maybe my very, very last question is there something intrinsic to people's voices that enables them that flexibility, whereas maybe some voices don't have that inherent flexibility?
Well, I believe anything with practice, you will get to that stage of flexibility. I mean, I'm more comfortable working on jazz stuff now than I was 10 years ago.
Right.
So even the voice is understanding the difference and adapting.
Yes.
So I think that's key, I think, even in human relationships.
I was just going to say.
Yeah, so understanding people, knowing the differences, knowing that you and I are not the same in certain ways.
Yes.
But yet I think it's that's key, I feel.
I really have nothing else to say, ladies and gentlemen. She has wrapped up the show for me. I don't even need to deliver a concluding monologue or anything. Those are golden words. Thank you, Soundarie.
Thank you so much.
And I look forward to many more collaborations in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.